Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. I am Manahil Remote Jawali and I am delighted to be here with you today. We have a very special guest with us, someone who has had a remarkable journey and a wealth of experiences. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Mr. Jim. Jim, it is an honor to have you here and we are excited to learn more about your life journey. How are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. So before moving on question, can you please introduce yourself for my viewers?
Yes, I live in the United States in Rochester, New York, and I was a longtime teacher and high school basketball coach. I did that for 35 years. I'm married for 41 years and have one son that actually is an attorney. And I play a lot of tennis, but I was blessed to be part of a story that exploded all over the world back in 2006 when I had a young man that was my team manager. And he had a special night when I put him in our final home game. We can talk more about that if you'd like.
Oh, that's a great introduction. Thank you so much for your introduction. So now let's move on to questions. My first question is on your screen. Can you tell us about your role as a professional speaker at Coach Jim Johnson and what topics you typically speak on?
Sure. So I kind of gave you a lead in there. How I got into speaking is back in 2006, our last home game. I was a varsity basketball coach at a high school called Greece Athena, and I had a young man that's on the autism spectrum, and he tried out for our team 3 consecutive years. He never made it, but he served as our team manager. So his senior season, I told him I was going to give him a gift, and the gift was for our final home game where we honor the seniors. I was going to give him a uniform and hopefully get him in the game. Well, I did give him a uniform. He got to hug his parents before the game in their ceremony. It was pretty cool. And then I got him in the game with just over 4 minutes to go. And the first time he touched the ball, he shot a 3-pointer from the corner. It missed by like 6 feet. It wasn't even close. But Jason didn't give up on his dream. So the next time he had another shot, this time a little bit shorter from about 10 feet away. It hit the rim. So we were getting closer. Then the third time, he had another 3-pointer. This time, magic. It went in, the place exploded. Everybody was so excited for him. But it didn't stop there. He started making more shots and more shots. In fact, he finished the game by making a long 3-pointer at the buzzer, and the whole crowd ran on the floor, and Jason's teammates put him up on their shoulders. And our public address announcer comes on and says the leading scorer for the Greece Athena basketball team tonight is Jason J. Mac McElwain with 20 points, including 6 3-pointers. And it ended up being a video that went viral that ESPN did. And you can see more about it on if you go to the ESPN JMac story or my website, CoachJimJohnson.com. But that got me into public speaking because people started to ask me about speaking. And so I started speaking after that season on this as part time. I was still teaching and coaching full time. And my topics is I spoke a lot. I do an inspirational presentation called Dreams Really Do Come True, where I share Jason's story and I talk about 6 keys to making your dreams come true. And then the last 5 or 6 years, I've done different presentations as well. Besides that one, I do one on leadership where I share my 7 keys of leadership. I do another one on inclusion called Who's Your JMac. I do another one on building team culture called Building a Championship Team Culture. And I also do some workshops. I do a leadership workshop and a goal setting workshop. I also wrote a book called A Coach in a Miracle that we released in 2011. And then we re-released it when I retired in 2016. We added a couple new chapters.
Alright, sir, that's amazing. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. So
Yep,
now let's move on to next question.
sure.
My next, my next question is: you work at the Greece Central School District as a physical education teacher. How did your teaching experience influence your current career as a speaker?
Great question. I got two answers for you. First of all, because as a teacher, I think you got to keep improving. So I was really big into my own personal growth. I read a lot of books. I still read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of audio programs. Now I listen to a lot of podcasts. And I'm always trying to learn to be better. And so that was number one, my drive to continue to improve. In fact, I encourage all listeners to have a personal growth plan that they're intentionally trying to get a little bit better each day by feeding their mind with good information. Number two is because as a teacher, I was doing public speaking almost every day in front of my students. That helped me immensely in the fact that when I went out and did it professionally, where I was actually getting paid for it, that I was comfortable doing it because I had done it so often as a teacher.
All right, sir. Awesome. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. Now
You
let's
know,
move on to next question.
sure.
Our next question is, what motivated you to transition from teaching to becoming a professional speaker?
Well, I like both, and I stayed teaching and coaching 10 more years after Jason's game that I described. But I got to the point where I was getting an opportunity to speak quite a bit, and it was hard to do both. So I felt this was another way that I could create a message to help people. And so that I decided in 2016 to retire from teaching and coaching to focus full time as a speaker.
Okay, sir. All right. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer.
Yep.
My next question is, could you share some memorable experiences or lesson from your time working at the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers?
Well, I got to correct you a little bit. I'm in the United States, so there is a Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. I'm actually in the National Speakers Association, which is an association that is in the United States, but it also does have members from other countries. But in the National Speakers Association, I've learned a lot about how to improve as a speaker, how to improve speaking business, and probably the best thing is I've got the opportunity to meet so many wonderful people in the speaking profession that have become friends. I've gone to 10 of the conferences over the years, and it's just a great way to meet people that are making such a positive impact, not only in the United States, but all over the world.
Okay, sir. All right. Now let's move on to next question.
Sure.
My next question is, you also work at Life Bites Media. Can you describe your role there and how it fits into your overall career journey?
Well, I don't know about Life Bites Media, so I'm not sure on that one. So I really can't answer that. I will say that going back to your Speakers Association, I really encourage people, if they want to get better in any profession, that they make it a study and that they get involved in organizations where they meet good people that they can learn from. And I think that's something I would encourage all people is to have an intentional personal growth plan and also being intentional in getting in groups where you have like-minded people that you can help and they can help you.
Okay, sir. Now let's move on to next question. My next question is, what advice do you have for individuals who inspire to become successful speaker in their respective fields?
Well, I'm going to answer that by saying, first of all, you've got to mix two things. You've got to find something that you're passionate about that you want to learn about. And then the second piece is you've got to be able to solve and help people overcome problems and difficulties. So, for example, in my leadership talk, I'm giving advice on how to become a better leader so you can lead your team to have more success, whether it's in sports or business or anything else. And so those are the two things you got to match is the ability to continue to find something you're really passionate about that you know a lot about, and then combining that with in the marketplace is something that you can help people solve problems. And if you can do those things, you're really good. Um, and people are going to want you to come and inspire them and learn from you.
Okay, sir. All right. Thank you so much, sir, for your advice. So now let's move on to next question. My next question is: can you share any strategies or techniques you use to engage and inspire your audience during your speaking engagements?
Wonderful question. So the first thing is in engaging your audience, you have to find different ways. First of all, inspire and to teach people. You got to have some points that you want to cover, but you got to illustrate them usually by stories and example. People remember stories. So if you have powerful stories that not only can inspire but educate people, that is something that's really good. So using stories. And then another way to getting people engaged is ask questions to get people to think. Like, how many would agree with the point that I just made? Or how many are in some type of leadership position? Get them to think. And then you can also do little activities with them. Like I do a goal setting activity where I ask them to write out their 3 most important goals. So that's a way they can act. Sometimes I'll have them do a partner activity where they ask each other. I give them a question and they answer that question back and forth. And then we usually will get everybody involved in giving some feedback about that question. So the 2 keys to come together is to inspire and get your audience involved, share good stories, and then number 2 is ask good questions and get the audience to think and participate.
All right, sir. Great answer. Thank you so much, sir, for your sharing your strategy. Now let's move on to the next question. My
Sure.
next question is: how do you stay updated and continue to grow in your career as a professional speaker?
Well, I think that's goes back to what we talked about is that when you're in some profession, you got to make it a study. So you got to be constantly trying to find ways that you can get a little bit better each day. Like I talked about having an intentional personal growth plan. Well, for me, that would be that I'm going to feed my mind. I want to feed my mind at least an hour a day. Now, how do I do that? Well, I read every day. In fact, on average, I read almost a book a week. So I read a lot because what I found in books is people, especially nonfiction, is they learn some kind of craft or leadership or whatever it happens to be, and they'll put it in a book that you can get that information much quicker. Number 2, I've turned my automobile, my car, into a library on wheels. I'm always listening to audio programs. Another thing, suggestion is I call it a 2 for 1. So if I go out for a walk, I will often put in my AirPods and I will listen to a podcast to learn more information. And then the last piece for now is I believe you got to be surround yourself with people that are smarter from you that you can learn from. So having like calls where networking groups or masterminds where you're learning from each other, those are great ways to continue to grow. In this case, your speaking business or any other business for that matter.
Wonderful answer, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer.
You're welcome.
Now let's move on to next question. My next question is: what are some key takeaways or messages you aim to convey to your audience through your speeches?
Sure. So let's go through a couple things that I talk about in my leadership keynote. So the first thing is I think you have to have clarity about your own personal mission, who you are. So how I do that, I have a mission statement. My mission statement is to be an outstanding role model that makes a positive difference in the world by helping others make their dreams come true. And what I challenge my audience is, what is your mission, your why? Why were you put on this earth? As Mark Twain said, the 2 most important dates are the day you're born and the day that you figure out why you were put on this earth. So I think that's a really good thing, is to get clarity about your personal mission. And then as a leader, you got to have a team mission that everybody buys into, the values of your team, in what direction, the vision of where your team is going. Next thing is, I really talk to people, if you're going to be an effective leader, you have to learn how to build trust and relationships with your team members. And so one of the things that we talk about is we give them 3 tips on how you can build trust with your team. But I think that's significant as a leader, that you find ways to lead by building trust. And then I'll give you one last one, is I believe leadership, the most effective leaders are servant leaders. And what I mean by that is they are always thinking of how they can serve their team members first, instead of thinking, how can my team members serve me first? And I think the best leaders are servant leaders. They're finding ways to how they can serve their people and help them each day.
All right, sir. That's amazing answer. Thank you so much, sir, for this amazing answer.
You're welcome.
Now let's move on to next question. My next question is, how has been the most memorable travel experience or destination you will visit, and what made it special for you?
Well, I'm going to give you 2 answers, because I'm going to give you one from my family and then one from my speaking. So first, my family, we've had a lot of neat trips. I have a wife and a son, but probably one of my favorite trips is we got a chance to spend 8 days in Hawaii, and the opportunity to spend 8 days in a beautiful place, and we really did some nice things together. We went scuba diving, and we did different things, and had some really nice meals together, and just enjoyed the beaches of Hawaii. So that was a really memorable trip. To see such beauty and to spend it with my family is something I'll always cherish. From a speaking, there has been so many great opportunities to speak in front of all these wonderful groups. But the one that always jumps out to me is I got a chance to speak at the Franklin Covey Global Summit in Salt Lake City, Utah. And what they did was something a little different. Usually when I come in to speak, they promote and they tell the audience who's a little bit about me, so that before I get in to speak. Well, Franklin Covey did something different. I was called the mystery speaker. So what I was backstage, and they didn't know who was coming on. And what they did is they showed the video about J-Mac's miracle game. And then they said, we have a special treat. We have the coach that put J-Mac in the game. And I walked out on stage, and Mount Hell, they actually gave me a standing ovation before I even started speaking. It was really a special moment for me.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yep.
Now let's move on to the next question. My next question is, are there any books, movies, or TV shows that have had a significant impact on your life or thinking? If so, could you tell us about one of them?
Sure. I'm going to give you one book and one movie. So the book is, I've read so many. I've read well over 1,000 books. So I've read a lot of great books. But one of the ones that really impact me immensely, I told you I got an opportunity to speak at the Franklin Covey, but is the book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey. And that was so powerful because it really gave me these habits that he learned about, that how highly effective people use the habits, like begin with the end in mind, be proactive, think win-win. Those are all great habits that I was able to learn and tried to implement in my life. That's how I learned about the why, the personal mission statement that I ended up developing. So that book was very significant in helping me in my life. I've had many other great books, but that one that I usually share. And then from the movie, it's probably a football movie called Remember the Titans. Because in the United States, we still have some race issues, but we used to have racial issues between African American or Black with white or Caucasian people. And this movie was about the integration of a high school that was predominantly white people, and they had black people come in, and it was getting black and white people to work together on a team. In this case, it was football, and to see how that story, how they ended up bringing it all together, really showed what you can do when you don't care about the color of people's skin or what language they use, but the fact that we're all people. And if we work for a common goal, we can do special things together. So that movie was called Remember the Titans.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to the next question. My next question is on your screen. Do you have any personal or life philosophies that you live by? If yes, could you share one with us and explain its important to you?
Yeah, so this is a leadership philosophy that I developed, that I learned about, and then I tried to live my life, and it's called Leave a Profit. And what that simply means is that my philosophy is everything that I touch, I want to turn to gold, not garbage. Or in other words, I want to make better, not worse. And I'll give you an illustration. When I used to coach basketball, if our team went to another school, we would go on a bus and we would go in the school. And before the game, they would usually open up a locker room where our players could come in and change into their uniforms. And when I would walk in the locker room, if I would see a piece of trash on the ground, I would stop and pick it up. Now, I didn't drop that trash. In fact, I don't know who did. But what I'm trying to teach myself and also the people I work with is my philosophy is leave a profit, make everything better, not worse. And therefore, do a little extra to make the world better, to help somebody. And if you do that, I think the world becomes a better place. So start by finding ways that you can create value and be kinder to people.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. So, lastly, what upcoming projects or speaking engagement do you have that your audience should look forward to?
Yeah, so I have some speaking opportunities for next year. But the one thing is, I just signed to work on a book where it's a leadership book where I'm going to do a chapter. The guy that's running is a guy named Kyle Wilson. That for your listeners, anybody that ever heard of the late Jim Rohn, he was a personal development and leadership coach in the United States, but he traveled all over the world. He spelled his name Rohn. And Kyle was his business partner for the last 18 years of his life. And I connected with Kyle. We actually had him on our podcast called the Limitless Leadership Lounge. So listeners, check that out. And then we've done over 100 interviews with different people on that, and we've enjoyed that. So if you're a young leader, that's a great podcast to listen to. And from there, I just signed an agreement to work with Kyle to be one of his authors on this leadership book. So that's one of the things I'm really excited about, is to be part of another book, because as I mentioned, I have one book called The Coach in a Miracle. So this will be my second book that I've been part of.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us your very valuable answer. Uh, do you have any piece of advice or message for my viewers?
Yeah, so I think the last thing is I'll say is that uh, I'll say two things. One, keep striving to get a little bit better each day, have a personal growth. And then the second thing is let's all work together on being kinder and serving others so we can make the world a better place. And if I could support any of your listeners, my website is coachjimjohnson.com. We have a lot of free content. We have a weekly blog you can sign up for that's free. We have a free monthly newsletter. I have a YouTube channel with a lot of content called at Coach Jim Johnson. And as I mentioned, I have a podcast. I work with a couple other people called the Limitless Leadership Lounge. that's on a lot of different podcast forums. So if I can help somebody, reach out to me. We got the information on the podcast, and I really appreciate it. It was a great interview with you.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. So that's bring us to end of our insightful conversation with Mr. James. I'd like to express my heartfelt gratitude for sharing your valuable experiences and insights with us today. Thank you, Mr. Jem, for being our guest, and thank you everyone for joining us for this conversation. We hope you found this interview as inspiring and informative as I did. So please stay tuned for more engaging discussions in the future. Until then, take care and goodbye, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, please send me a link of the interview, and I'll share it with my network. So,
Sure, sure, sir. I will send you. Thank you. Bye.
okay, bye.